have a 0 and you pass on to the next academic year. So please don't do it, okay? 3 years back, I had a student. This was a working mother, okay, with 2 kids. She was doing dentistry. So, obviously, we were all helping her out with her work as much as we could, professors. She submitted her research project, and at this point, we didn't have posters, we had articles, so they had to write research articles, like entire research articles. And she was not an English speaker, so a native English speaker. So we were all over the place helping her out, etc. Then when she submitted in the July call, I find out that 54% of her work is plagiarized, okay? It's copied from online resources. Have you seen Turnitin before? Okay, so Turnitin is fantastic because it just doesn't tell you how much is copied. It tells you what is copied from where. So you can go back and check just to make sure, right? Now obviously I felt very bad for this person because I had seen her through the semester. And I'm like, what happened? And I spoke to her and like, what's going on? Because it's 54% of the work is not yours. And how can I help? And you know what she told me? That she's very, very annoyed because she paid someone to do her work and that person had plagiarized. And that if I could give her a report of the plagiarized material so she could sue this person. As you can understand, I'm nobody's secretary, I'm your professor, okay? I do not send out reports of what you did and what you did not do outside the institution. So what happened? Passing on to next academic year. So if you think that by paying somebody off or using ChatGPT, you can get your work done, you're wrong. Because we also detect the use of AI for writing your reports. Okay guys, please don't do these things. You're here to learn. You're here to do the things that we teach you the right way. So make use of that. Okay, don't try to go through these shortcuts because they are usually not productive for you. Okay? Usually it ends up in you getting a 0 and we getting to know what you did. So please be careful. Documentation is 3 credits. I don't ask you to come to the lab, no practical classes, no mandatory activities, no midterm exams, okay? The only thing you have to do is listen to me and follow the advice and work as a team. If you're consistent from beginning to end, we're gonna be okay. If you start copying, paying people to do your job, not gonna work out, okay? Okay. We have 2 types of plagiarism. One is intentional, you know what this means, you know exactly what you're doing on purpose, right? Cheating on purpose. Or unintentional plagiarism, where you misuse your resources or references and you have no idea what you're doing. So unknowingly you make a mistake. Both of which are, again, considered forms of academic dishonesty. You not knowing the law doesn't mean if you don't follow it, you don't get punished, okay? It almost always means that even if you don't know it, if you cross the line, you cross the line, okay? Now, intentional plagiarism is when you knowingly do it, meaning that you take somebody else's work and you pass it off as your own. Here are some examples. Copying entire documents and presenting them as your own. By the way, Turnitin not just detects copying from online resources. We have a database of all of the reports submitted over the past 11 years or so. So if a person's poster looks exactly like yours, even if he was your senior and passed out 5 years back, it doesn't really matter. Turnitin still detects plagiarism, so please be careful. Cutting and pasting, copying and pasting work from others without properly citing the authors and the sources. Stringing together the quotes and ideas of others without connecting their work to your work, meaning again, you're not referencing them well. Asserting ideas of others without acknowledging them, meaning that you're just passing it off as your own. And you are reproducing sentences written ad verbatim. So we are copying things and we are presenting them as our own ideas. All of these are considered forms of intentional plagiarism. The most popular type of copying that I've seen is tweaking it here and there, making minor changes to the text and thinking that it's fine. Meaning, I copy a paragraph and you use your Microsoft Word and you change a few synonyms here and there, you paraphrase one sentence and that's it. Can that be detected by Turnitin? Yes, 100%, okay? So please be careful. Just because you make minor changes doesn't make the idea your own, okay? Now please remember that the other thing that I come across, this is either intentional or unintentional, not writing the source of information correctly. I have been correcting all of your proposals, okay? I'm slightly surprised, I have to say. Good surprised or bad surprised?
Good surprise.
Unfortunately not, okay? Why? Sometimes I feel like I've repeated a certain set of things in class, like for example, what are the things I've repeated a lot? Vancouver style, okay? And for me, it's like following a recipe. I give you a format. The only thing you need to do is follow it. Suddenly I see links, URLs to the research articles. Is this part of Vancouver style? No. Nobody asked you for the URL. Is this what you're going to be doing in your graduation project? No. Nobody's asking for the URLs. When should you include the link? When it's a website. Have you all included websites in your list of references? Most definitely not. Okay? I've corrected 6 proposals and 4 out of 6 did not have any websites in the list of references. How many times did I tell you this in class? Probably around 20. 4 research articles, 2 books, 2 websites. You remember? No? You don't remember? Okay, now you know. 4 research articles, 2 books, 2 what? Websites. Okay? So, when I tell you that there's a source and you need to reference it in a specific style, you have to follow the format. Otherwise, the other problem we have is we think you're making up the source. Why? Because the format doesn't match. There's no way for me to find out who you're referring to, what research are we talking about. So the information is incorrect. It looks like you're cooking up stories. It looks like you're making up these sources of information. So be very careful. It's not just about citing well, it's about including the reference correctly in its correct format, okay? But do we have to cite everything? Are there a few exceptions to this rule? Yes, okay? Common knowledge. For example, the earth is round, or the oral cavity refers to your mouth and your teeth together. You don't have to say anything about this or use a reference, okay? We understand we are in first year dentistry and I'm your professor, so I'm expected to know these things. So depending on the audience and the context, there are certain things that you don't need to cite. Common knowledge. Things within the public domain, such as, for example, dictionary definitions or mathematical formulas. These 2 are in the public domain. We have information from common encyclopedias, basic things. You don't have to cite it. Whenever you have an expired copyright or an inexistent copyright, I'm sure this happens to you sometimes, maybe YouTube videos or pieces of music that it's not very clear who the author is or where it's coming from, this usually is exempted from this rule, which means that for work that has no copyright or has an expired copyright, you don't have to cite, okay? And of course, your own original ideas, your own research. For example, in the questionnaire, do you have to cite? In the questionnaire, do you have to cite? Do you have to add references? No. Why? Because this is your work. It's your brainchild, your idea, okay? Your creativity. You don't have to cite. Let's talk about unintentional plagiarism. This is when you cite incorrectly, meaning you took an idea from reference number 1, but you added the citation as 3, which means that you didn't cite correctly. This is unintentional, of course, okay? Or when you don't realize that your borrowed ideas need to be cited. Now you know, okay, there's no excuse. When you're in this course, you know that you cannot do this. But again, this is unintentional plagiarism when you do not know. This is slightly different, of course, from intentional plagiarism because there is no clear purpose of doing it. You don't know what you're doing. However, both are punishable, both are considered forms of academic dishonesty. Okay? Now let me introduce you to Turnitin in case you're not already familiar with it. This is a tool that we use in all educational institutions to check for copied material. As I told you before, it gives us a total percentage of the amount of copied material, and it also tells us what was taken from where. So when I say I manually check your percentages, this is what I mean. I go inside the document and check if you've really copied everything and where you've taken it from. And we have specific definitions regarding the different types of plagiarism. I'm not going to go through this because this is not really relevant for you, knowing all of this, but these are just tools that we have. Definitions, for example, let me take 3 different types. A clone would be a complete copy of somebody else's work. When you say remix, it means that you paraphrase from multiple sources, put them together, and don't cite correctly. Or when you include citations that are from non-existent sources. For example, when you don't include the correct amount of information, it looks like the source was made up, okay? So we have different types of plagiarism inside Turnitin. Okay, now, let's see if you understand what plagiarism means. Take a moment to read scenario 1 and tell me what you think. Is it okay? Not okay? Why not?
Because people changed it.
Yes?
Because he claimed that he wrote it, he's not the only one, and Wikipedia is not, everyone can write on it, so.
Very good, okay. So he's saying he individually authored it. Is this true? No, because people have contributed. And first of all, would you put a Wikipedia article on your resume?
No.
Don't do it, okay? Has no credibility. I mean, today you can sit and right now you can write an article. That doesn't mean anything. It's not an achievement. It's not anything that adds value to your resume, so don't do it. Second, you can't say you individually authored an article where you had multiple contributions from other authors. So no, it's not okay. Scenario 2. What do you think? Yes.
It's not okay because she.
She used a lot of like her resources and ideas, but if she has them all like word for word as her like, roommate did, then that's considered plagiarism. But if she just took inspiration like ideas from her, then I guess it's fine.
Okay. Interesting. What were you going to say?
No, because like she's like taking ideas from her roommate and then it just put it into her own article and claiming that she did it. So I think it's like considered
I think
plagiarism.
it's not okay.
Okay.
What do you guys think over here? Maria, you think no? You're not okay with it, okay? What do you propose? What could be the solution?
That she gives credit.
Sorry?
That she gives credit to her.
That she gives credit. How can you give credit to an article, I mean, an author who doesn't have a published article with the ideas? This happens a lot in science. Yes?
I feel like a solution wouldn't be to give credit, it would be to make it more of like her opinions and her ideas, rather than having them like her roommates.
Okay. The thing is, as long as you are using somebody else's work and they constructed a base for you to then build on, you can't really claim it's your original research. So how can we give credit to this person? You can ask this person to be a co-author. This is what we do in research. You know, the typical PhD student who worked on a project and then left because she was in a hurry, and then you took her idea and you worked on it and you have a paper now to publish. What we do is we offer co-authorship, which means that both Carla and her roommate would be co-authors. They will have equal contribution to the work. Okay? We move on to the third scenario. Very late. Okay. Jeff and his blog. No? Yes? Tell me.
Yes, I think it's okay
Okay?
because he provides link,
Mm-hmm.
and so his work is to put everything together. So I think he said it's okay.
Okay. Any other opinions? You guys are okay with this, right? Okay. Do you read blogs? You don't read blogs? No, I only read anatomy, physiology, and biochemistry. Okay. So, imagine that there is a blog about the best restaurants in Madrid, okay? Do I have to use external sources? Of course, I have to use external sources because I'm choosing to write my opinion about something else. However, if I'm including the links, I'm referencing and citing the information, then it's fine, okay? It's a blog. That's what blogs are about. You're authoring articles about other people's work or ideas or places, okay? Yes.
Is TripAdvisor a blog?
TripAdvisor is a website, right? Because you can buy products out there. Am I wrong? TripAdvisor.
I didn't know. I thought it was only a rating system for places and restaurants.
I think they have like a guide that then they sell on the website, so I think it makes it a website. I wouldn't really consider it like a mainstream blog.
Because they do exactly what you just said.
Yeah,
they
I know.
tell things about places and sometimes people group.
If they're not selling stuff on the website,
Then
then
it's a blog.
yes, would qualify as a blog, but it's not like mainstream classifiable as a blog, I think. It's a website with recommendations about trips, right? A guide, more of a guide.
And what about Instagram before? I mean, when Instagram was created, was it a blog?
When
For
was
many
Instagram
people?
created?
I don't know, I forgot that.
But what was it? When
Facebook.
it was created, it was you sharing information and personal things, right? It's more social media than a blog.
Yeah,
Can you make it into a blog? Yes, you can.
Because
then
people
I
are-
know people who
they
add
have blog.
the bio, right, where they have their blog links, but it's not strictly a blog either. It's a social media profile.
And now it's only also a website because we can buy product on Instagram.
Right, correct. You have a shop there, correct. Okay. Do you buy products on Instagram?
Never.
Never? No?
I mean, we just have some promotion code or link that
Right.
put us in another website, but I think we can directly buy from Instagram now.
Okay, I'm curious because they do have a shop now integrated into the app. Okay? Okay, we move on to the fourth scenario.
Non,
Last
les liens,
one.
mais pas de.
Allô J'ai une fiche de 65 pages avec que des annales d'anat. Je t'envoie.
Ouais, c'est bête. Tu dois lire le truc parce que et tu dis si j'aurais été ok avec.
Le scénario dépend de quoi?
What's the solution? Co-authorship, correct, okay? I am building our own data that the professor already had, okay? So, co-authorship. Or what usually happens in research is they go ahead and publish it without including it, and then you find out when you read the article, okay? First-hand experience. Okay, this is for your own personal reading, okay? When you go back home, try to look through and see if you've understood everything I've said during the lecture, okay? Now, I'm going to quickly move on to guidelines for scientific reports. Before I move on, how was your experience working in a team? Good? How was your experience writing the proposal? Good? Did you feel a little bit lost at times?
For the proposal?
Yes?
No.
No?
No.
Okay. Did you feel a little lost at times writing the proposal? Okay. I'll tell you what the fundamental issue is. I read your proposal and sometimes I feel like I'm having a telephone conversation with you, okay? It sounds very colloquial sometimes. So you have to be careful with your tone, how you write. That's very important. Learning to write in an academic setting, trying to be as professional as possible when you write. We thought it would be incredible that when you start like that, that means it's becoming too colloquial, because you can't start a report saying that you thought something was incredible. No, okay? You start by saying, for example, artificial intelligence has a fundamental role today in society and is here to stay in the future. If you say that, I know you're creating a context to then, detail a little bit more. But if you start saying, it's quite incredible how, artificial intelligence is awesome, then no, okay? That's not how you write. Yes?
I thought that the proposal was only for you, that we explain to you what we are going to do, but no writing as we are going to write in the,
Final
poster.
The thing is, the proposal is still a formal plan of your project. Even if you're submitting it to me, I'm evaluating you for your writing, so you have to be careful about your tone, okay? One thing is you explaining it, that's a different story. Even in an oral presentation, you use certain words that are adjectives and sound a little bit colloquial, that's fine. You're explaining a concept, but when you're writing it, you have to be careful, okay? The tone is very important. The choice of words is very important. Second question for you. All of you are familiar with Microsoft Word? Yes? Okay. When you come to the university, you make sure that you're clean, well-dressed, you brushed your teeth, you combed your hair, right? Same story when you give me a proposal. If you give me a proposal with spaces, unjustified margins, right? You have to learn to be very OCD with these things. Why? Because your graduation project, these things, we take it into account. Presentation is very, very important. The moment you present me a project, a proposal that is chaotic, the margins are all over the place, you use one font size in one page, another font size in another page, line spacing is not okay. Has to be uniform, just like how you dress when you come here, okay? Same story, presentation is very, very important. So please keep these two things in mind. I'm aware this is your first writing experience here in the uni, but it's just about to get much harder and you have to improve, okay? Now having said that, let me introduce how you're going to go about writing your poster, which is 30% of your grade from the research project. When is the final proposals due? When's the next deadline?
Next week.
Next week. Correct. 3rd of November, okay? Today or tomorrow, you will receive my detailed feedback, okay? Which means the team leader of each team will receive an email from me with detailed feedback, constructive feedback regarding corrections that you need to make. Please make the corrections, because what am I grading? The final proposal, the one that you submit on the 3rd of November. Okay? Good? What happened? Did you have a Halloween party? No? Yes? Expected, yes. Next weekend is a long weekend. 31st and 1st. Okay, so have fun with your proposal. Okay? Now we move on to scientific reports. Please remember that whatever you're doing here in class in documentation is eventually part of a larger scientific community, which means that this is why we are doing the poster. We're presenting your results in your research to a small community here in the uni that eventually forms part of a larger scientific community all over the world. Therefore, there is a certain level of responsibility when you write things, which means that you follow a specific format and you make sure that all of your work is original and validated, okay? This is the reason we write scientific reports. And for scientists, for researchers, we write scientific reports because we need to publish. Why do we need to publish? Because if you don't publish, you don't have a job, okay? In order to get funding in research, I'm sure you're aware that we need to publish. A scientific report always follows this format: introduction, materials and methods, results, and discussion. All papers, what do they begin with? The first section of the paper, what does it say when you read an article? Sorry? The title, and then? No. There are no subtitles, just a title, okay? And then? Authors, okay, and then? The abstract. What's the abstract? This is your? The summary of the entire article. This is like the trailer for the movie, okay? The abstract is a summary of your paper. And then you have introduction, materials and methods, results, discussion. At the end of the paper, what do we have? References, list of references, okay? So this is the format you will need to follow, but of course you will be presenting a poster, okay? I'm first going to summarize to you guys what we have in each section, and for today's lecture, we're just going to concentrate on introduction and materials and methods. Next week, we will continue with results and discussion, okay? The introduction is nothing but building a general, let's say, introducing your concept in a very general manner. And we are also going to include the objective and the hypothesis of your study. The objective, as you know, is the main goal, the main aim of your work. By the way, some of your proposals had objectives that were 10 lines long. Come on, objective means main aim of the work, to assess the level of knowledge regarding artificial intelligence in students from dentistry at Universidad Europea. This is your objective, okay? 2 to 3 lines max. Research questions, same story. You gave me like 10 research questions. It's just one question, one main question you're trying to answer, okay? Now, what is the hypothesis? What does this mean?
You're like propose a research question, but with no like evidence or anything, like it's just an idea, I guess.
An idea about the research question.
No, it's like the objective you're coming to, but without the evidence or anything.
Okay.
It's like you envisioning a possible outcome of the experience.
Okay, so you're guessing what's going to happen, the main outcome of your study. But is this a wild guess or
Educated.
an educated guess? Okay, based on all of the research that you studied, that you read for your project, you kind of predict what could happen. For example, if I ask you guys, what is going to be the general perception of the use of advanced technologies in dentistry, what's your hypothesis? Is it going to be well received or not? By future dental students, by future dentists, you guys. Well received, okay? Why? Because technology is here to stay. So the hypothesis is that dental students are going to accept the use of advanced technologies. This is a hypothesis. So your introduction should contain the objective, the hypothesis, and a general introduction about your area, your research area. Materials and methods is you discussing how you went testing your hypothesis, meaning how did you go about collecting your results, your data, your numbers, okay? So here, you're gonna talk about everything you're doing with respect to the questionnaires, meaning how many did you distribute, how did you distribute them, where, etc. Results, we're going to provide the numbers, raw data from your questionnaires. This could be represented in visual formats like tables and figures, statistics, okay? In discussion, you're going to discuss why your results are like this. For example, if I say 70% of the children who were interviewed had gingivitis, this is the result. Discussion is you saying, since 70% of the children had gingivitis, this could be related to poor oral hygiene. So you're giving a reason regarding why this result was produced by your research, okay? So discussion is learning to understand whether your data supports your hypothesis, whether they match, and you're trying to address all of the limitations in your study, analyzing your data. That's going to be in your discussion. Now let's look at the pre-writing exercises that you will need to do before you start working on your poster. First, think of your audience. In your case, who's the audience?
Student.
Me and your classmates. So you can assume that there is a basic knowledge about science in general and about dentistry, okay? So you can assume a few things and not assume a few things about the knowledge that your audience will have. What are we going to do through this research project? Objective. How are we doing it? And why are we doing it this way? Materials and methods. What are we hoping to learn from this research project? The objective and the research question along with the hypothesis. And you design an outline for each part and start writing your poster. Let's talk about the introduction. This is going to be, let's say, a scientific introduction to your work, which means you do not begin by saying, we thought about artificial intelligence and how cool it is, and we thought this would be a nice research project. That cannot be an introduction, okay? The introduction has to be a scientific introduction, meaning you are laying out the reason why you perform the project by talking about how relevant this concept is in dentistry or in science, okay? There, you're going to paraphrase and summarize and use background information, meaning all of the work I'm hoping you've done these 2 weeks, which is reading articles, books, websites related to your study, it's going to give you a base for you to introduce your research topic, okay? Your area. Please remember to use citations and references here if you use previously published ideas. Second, you're going to clearly mention the objective or the purpose of your work, and you're going to include your hypothesis. Remember that you cannot make an educated guess without reading many articles, okay? So hypothesis is not some fluke, some guess, okay? It's based on all of the knowledge you've accumulated thanks to all of the reading you've done from the articles that are related to your project. This is your introduction. It always moves from general to specific information, which means that I introduce my topic and then move to the hypothesis of my work. The background must be summarized, so no 1, 2, 3, 4, okay, no bullet points. We're going to summarize it in a paragraph. Please remember that the introduction will only limit, you will only limit the introduction to studies that are directly related to your project. So don't go around summarizing everything. Maybe 4 to 5 lines, let's say 2 or 3 references for the first part of your introduction. The last few sentences or the last paragraph will contain the objective and hypothesis of your work, okay? This will be a good transition when you move to the materials and methods. You can cite as many sources as you want, please, as long as you use Vancouver style. So in materials and methods, you're going to go around and just describe how you tested your hypothesis. I had a problem with the data collection part of your proposal, okay? What did you write over there? What are you expected to write? Because the question is, how did you collect your data? So what should you do? What should you write? If I ask you this question in the exam, what will you tell me? How you collected the data, but the specifics.
Questionnaire.
Okay, we used a questionnaire. That's all, we use a questionnaire.
Yeah, we only push the button. That's all.
Press the button and that's
Automatic.
it. Okay, how did you go around distributing these questionnaires? How did you do it?
We're still doing it.
Yes, but how? How are you doing it? Describe it to
Social
me.
media,
Social media.
mainly.
But where's the questionnaire? Is it a physical questionnaire?
No,
Are
it's
you
in-
taking interviews?
It's on forms.
Okay, that you have to write. You have to say that it was formulated on Google Forms and you're distributing the questionnaires online. Did you write this?
Yes.
Not
Yeah.
everyone wrote it, okay?
Okay.
How many did you
No, like-
distribute, minimum? That's the expected number.
on a écrit
Imagine
qu'on
you
allait
have two
distribuer comme
groups
ça.
and you're comparing dental students to dentists. Then you have 60 in total, 30
Pardon,
from
je-
one population, 30 from
Parce
the
que
other
là-
population. Public and private care, you need 30 from each in order to come up with a final comparison, okay? So the number varies from group to group and you have to write how many you distributed. Third thing, who's answering your questions?
Deux sites.
Attends, les...
Dentists,
Bon,
patients,
plusieurs fois.
general population, dental students, pregnant women, AIDS patients, who's answering them? Are you
Dentist.
limiting your project to a specific sample population? You have to write that, okay? So all of these features were missing from your how are you collecting your data section in the proposal. Please remember to include it for the poster, okay? Okay. Be a little bit too dark here, right? Don't fall asleep, okay? So, do you know the term reproducible? You know what this means when I say results need to be reproducible? Have you heard of this term before? Yes, what does it mean?
So other people can't get the same results as you.
Other people can get the exact same results if they replicate your methodology, okay? This is something we use in science. If I'm trying to treat a cancer patient with a specific type of chemotherapy, I write it down in my research article. So a person who wants to do it to his or her cancer patient in the future will need to reproduce my methodology, okay? So make sure that how you write this section captures the main concept of your data being reproduced. You also need to describe the sample population. As I told you before, who are you distributing the questionnaires to? You need to include the questionnaire. By the way, if there are specific categories or sets of questions, you have to talk about it over here. Okay. Again, here, there is a portion in your materials and methods section where you describe how you tested your questionnaire. How did we test your questionnaire? Pre-pilot and pilot, right? You have to describe this methodology in materials and methods. You say that you validated your questionnaire using pre-pilot in class and pilot with 10% of your sample population. Make sure that you use past tense, because when you're writing your poster, collecting your data is in the past, okay? So you write it in past tense, okay? Active or passive voice according to you. The other problem in your proposal is sometimes you started saying everything in first person. I did this, I think that, okay? Are you doing it individually, the work? I hope not, okay? This is teamwork, so you have to say we always, not I, okay? So that's it for introduction and materials and methods. The next class, I'll continue with results and discussion. Please remember, this is the format for your poster, not for your proposal, okay? The proposal is already submitted. You just have to make the changes that I will send to your team leaders this week, okay? Any questions?
No.
No? Okay, so I'm gonna start sending the feedback to the team leaders and you can continue to work on your proposals right now, okay? Take a look at your proposal and check where you can improve, okay? And you'll be surprised. When I send my feedback, I'm sure that they match.